Good morning, Morai Rabotai, Bruchim Abayim. We're continuing on Masechet Makkot. We are on the Mishnah, on the bottom of the Amud. Hey Amud Bet. About 12 lines up. Today's Amud is being learned. L'schut refuah shelema of Rachel Simcha bat Nahid and Yael bat Loren Esther Shoshana. That should have full recovery, refuah shelema, amen. And also for Hatzalah of Arvin Netanel ben Sonia, that we should hear good news about him as well. Amen. We are starting a new halacha in Ilchot Edim. The pasuk says, Al pi shnayim edim or shlosha edim yumat hamit, which is about dinei nefashot, when the bedin give one of the capital punishments to an individual for the transgression that they have done. The pasuk says either based on 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses, yumat hamit, the dead person should be killed. Now we have, for disclosure, we have the same language for dinei mamonot, for the monetary laws as well. If you take a look at the side of your Gemaras, they actually bring that as well. The same exact language is mentioned. Alpi shenayim edim, or alpi shelosha edim yumat hamit, lo yumat alpi ed echad. That's one pasuk which, based on our girsa in the Mishnah, that's the pasuk we're referring to. You'll see in the Gemara that sounds to be aligned with the girsa we have. There are other girsas that don't have that necessarily, but what they have is a pasuk, a different pasuk in Devarim, 2 prakim later. It's Perek Yud Zayin versus Perek Yud Tet, and there the pasuk says regarding monetary laws, Lo yakum ed echad beish lechol avon ulchol chatat. One ed would not be effective for any avon or chatat. It's almost like worthless. Aside from, of course, edut isha, right? In parentheses, as we will see later, for an isha that's aguna, a husband dies, and now the wife cannot get married until you can prove that the husband is dead. Otherwise, she'll stay an aguna. And for that edut isha, we have all kinds of kulas, that one ed is neman, a woman is neman, a pasul v'karov is neman. All kinds of leniencies that have been built in to the edut isha. But for any of the dinei Torah, short of that needs witnesses, lo yakum ed echad beish lekol avon ulkol chatat bechol chet asher yechta al pi shenayim edim or al pi shlosha edim yakum davar. Based on 2 edim or based on 3 edim. By the way, once you're at this, obvious question, every single one over here around the long table has asked it when you read the Chumash every year. Why in the world do you have to tell me al pi shenayim edim or al pi shelosha edim? If you're telling me based on 2 edim you could do it, of course I would know that based on 3 edim you also could do it, right? And the more sophisticated individuals, they will ask themselves a second question, which is, well, even if you want to tell me for whatever reason, 2 edim or 3 edim, just tell me al pi shenayim or al pi shelosha edim. Why do you have to say al pi shenayim edim or al pi shelosha edim? One of the words edim is extra, right? Just tell me al pi shenayim or shelosha edim, yakum davar or yumat hamet. You definitely don't need to say al pi shenayim edim, al pi shelosha edim. That's like a word salad that everything that could be extra is extra. So those 2 questions we will deal with just mamash immediately in the Gemara. Says the Mishnah, al pi shenayim edim or shelosha edim yumat hamit. And the Mishnah asks the obvious question we just said, the first one, if you could establish your testimony with the 2 edim, lama parata katuv b'shlosha. Why does the pasuk have to even say 3? 2 works, for sure 3 works. Ela le'akish shenayim l'shlosha should be. It's coming to compare that the edut of 2 to the testimony of 3. Ma shlosha mazimin, just like by 3 people who come to Bedin to deny the edut of the first group. If 3 people come to Bedin and say these 2 people who just testified Reuben killed Shimon, they're lying. They were with us, somewhere else. Of course, 3 is bigger than 2, so 3 for sure could overpower 2 and make them edim zomemim, right? But would I know if you have 3 edim in the beginning, and then 2 edim come, a smaller group come afterwards and say, they were with us? Do I know that that works or not? I wouldn't know. Maybe a bigger group of edim is more powerful. Maybe it is. So says the Gemara, just like 3 could deny and nullify the edut of 2, same way, says the Pasuk, 2 could also nullify and uproot and make the first group of 3 mezimim as well. Afashenayim yasumu et hagimel. And says the Gemara, uminayin af mea. How do you know even 100? That means, even if you have 100 edim coming together and say, Reuben, we saw Reuben killed Shimon. And 2 little edim, 2 bar mitzvah bachrim come afterwards and say, no, they're lying. All these 100 people were with us. Or as we will see, 1 of the 100 was with us. Right? How do I know that they could uproot an edut of 100 people? Says the Pasuk, an extra word of edim. Remember how we said the second edim is extra? You don't need to say Apishalim edim, edim. What do you have to say? The extra? It's coming to Tosafot over here. Ask. They say, wait a second. Let's go through a logical discourse over here. If you have 2 overpowering 3, what's the next chidush? 4. How did you jump from 3 to 100? Chazak u'baruch. But I mean, how does that work? The Tosafot say something very logical, because 4 already, let's do 4, right? Let's do 4. So I know 3 from the Pasuk. That 2 could overpower 3, that already we know from the Pasuk. So if you have an extra edim, so let's say we add only 1 to that, right? So that would be 2 overpowering 4. Now 4 is what? It's 2 groups of edim. Every group is minimum of 2. So once you have 2 groups of edim that could be nullified by 1 group, there is no logical difference between 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups, 50 groups. So once I tell you that 2 could overpower, 1 group could overpower more than 1 group, that already automatically gives you there is no difference between 4 edim and 100 edim. And that's how the Tosafot understands me'ah. So afilu me'ah, even if you have to have 200, 500, doesn't make a difference. You have all of these edim, 2 edim could come afterwards and make them hazama. So says the Gemara, Talmud Omar edim, Rabbi Shimon Omer. So this is all, by the way, until now, this is all talking about kulas, right? They could be mekel, that even 2 people could make a hazama of 3 or 100, right? Says Rabbi Shimon, you don't need it for kula. Rabbi Shimon Omer, ma shnayim ena neragin ad sheyiyu shnehem zomemim. Another kula. Just like 2 are not killed until both of them become edim zomim. We just had this in the Mishnah before, right? The story of Shlomo Masechet, they said you killed an innocent person, right? So just like 2 edim, for them to be punished, both of them have to be edim zomemim. Af shlosha ena neragin ad sheyiyu shloshtan zomemim. Even if you have 3 people, you don't kill them. This is a big kula also, right? You don't kill them, even if 2 of them became edim zomemim, you still don't kill them until all of the edim are edim zomemim. Then you could kill them. So says the Gemara, uminayin afilu me'ah, and how do you know even 100? Again, Talmud Omar edim. You know that from the extra edim in the pasuk. Now Rabbi Akiva has his unique twist over here. Beautiful. Says Rabbi Akiva, you guys said, Tanaim said, 2 sets of kulas. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Lo ba'ashlishi lehakel ela lachmir. The third one is not coming to tell you a kula, it's not coming to tell you a leniency, but rather it's coming to tell you a chumrah. What's this stringency over here? Says Rabbi Akiva, who is always positive, over here says, no, and you don't need, the kula is pashut for him, right? The positivity is pashut. But here is teaching you a chumrah as well. What's the chumrah? Lo ba'ashlishi la'akel ela la'achmir alav v'la'asot dino kayotze ba'elu. It's coming to tell you that the halacha of the third witness is going to be the same halacha as the first two. That means, if they testified, right? If they testified that Reuben killed Shimon, and we were about to kill Reuben because of them, and now they became edim zomemim, we kill all three of them. The third guy can't say, well, without me, I came later. Without me, they could have already done what they wanted to do. They didn't need me, so let me off the hook. No. All three of them will be killed. Even though that the first two didn't need the third one, if he tagged along with them, he will also be killed. That's a chumrah. So says the Gemara, now look at what Rabbi Akiva does. The Rabbi Akiva, who's the most positive human being in the history of the world, the one that said, Kol David Rachmana letav avid, the one that sees the Beit HaMikdash, as we'll see later in the Gemara, in his destruction, when foxes come out, and he says, he starts laughing, says, now I know that the positive nivuot also are going to be exactly and vividly fulfilled. The one that all over Shas, he is the positive individual. He says, let's take a look at positive at this. Uma, says Rabbi Akiva, if you see that the Hashem, the Pasuk, the Torah punishes someone that tags along with Ovrei Avera, with people who do Avera, and the Torah punishes him, just like the Ovrei Avera themselves, even though that you didn't need the third guy. And still he gets punished because he tagged along with people who are negative. Al-Achad, Kama v'chama, how much more so? Yeshalem schar nenitpal le'osei mitzvah ke'osei mitzvah. How much more so HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give reward to the people who are nitpal le'osei mitzvah. They tag along people who do mitzvah. Even if you're not needed. Imagine you have a shul fundraiser and you're not necessarily needed for them, but you tag along. You say, I'm going to help out, right? Le'osei mitzvah. You tag along with somebody that's doing a mitzvah, even though that you're not needed. You're going to be mamash ke'osei mitzvah, because the midah tova meruba. We learned this from Matan Torah, actually, that a person that does positivity is 500 times more than a person that does negativity. So we always say midah tova meruba. The positivity, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has much more than negativity. So if something by negativity is true, so much more so is going to be by the positive aspect. So if a person is nitva le'osei mitzvah, he's going to be just like osei mitzvah. So it says, two lines up, and another halacha, says Rabbi Akiva, if two edim that come and one of them turns out to be karov or pasul, relative or invalid ed, is either karov, is either a relative and that's why he is invalidated, or he's pasul. Because of what he does, he's a over avera, he's a rasha, and therefore he's pasul le'edut. So just like by two people, if one of them turns out to be karov or pasul, edutan betela, the entire edut is out the window. Af shlosha nimsa echad mehen karov or pasul, edutan betela. Even three, if you have one of them that turns out to be pasul, or turns out to be karov, you have three edim, and one of them turns out to be a relative, or one of them turns out to be a rasha, pasul le'edut. Then you don't say, well, we have two other kasher edim. You don't say that. If one of the group is invalidated, the entire group is out. Even though that you have two kasher edim, still doesn't matter. So says the Gemara, Minayin afilu me'ah, and how do I know even 100? That means even if you have 100 edim, a group of 100, and all of them are kasher v'yashar, they're good people, one of them is pasul, the whole edut is out. How do I know that? From the same word, extra word of edim, that's where we learn it. Now says Rabbi Yossi, when is this true? Says Rabbi Yossi, bedine nefashot. That's only bedine nefashot. Remember, the pasuk that we have according to our girsa is al pi shnayim edim or al pi shlosha edim yumat hamit. Talking about dine nefashot. You're putting the guy to death. So says Rabbi Yossi, this leniency that we have, that we don't kill the guy if one of the edim is pasul, is only by dine nefashot. Why? Because, in parentheses, doesn't say it here, but the reason for it is because there is a pasuk, a special halacha about dine nefashot, that the pasuk says vehitzilu ha'eda. There's a commandment for the community to save the life of the person that's put on trial for death penalty. So anything that you find in his zchut, we stop the death penalty, the death row, right? So if you have one ed that comes out to be pasul, the entire edut is out the window. We don't kill the guy. So says Rabbi Yossi, that's when we say that one ed that's pasul, it invalidates the entire the entire group of edim. But by dineh mamonot, when you're testifying about monetary matters, so you have 3 edim, one of them is pasul. Do you still have 2? Yes, chazak baruch, right? Now that's not the halacha. Chachamim disagree with that, right? Says the Gemara, Aval bedine mamonot itkayem ha'edut b'sha'ar. Rabbi argues with Rabbi Yossi, and he says, no, echad dine mamonot, echad dine nefashot. Doesn't make a difference whether it's monetary loss or it's a death penalty. It's the same. If one of them turns out to be pasul, the entire edut is out the window. It's invalidated, and it's not worth anything. So says the Gemara, Rebbe argues in a second aspect with Rabbi Yossi as well. Ve'emata, says Rebbe, and also there's another stipulation. Bizman shehitru bahem. It's only a case that there was a hatra'ah. In other words, imagine you have a mass shooting, right? Or a deliberate homicide in front of public, right? So you have a bunch of quote-unquote edim that they saw exactly what happened, right? And the guy pulls out the gun, wants to kill him, right? And people say, no, don't kill him, you're gonna get killed. And poof, he shoots in front of 100 people, right? Now what happens if you have 2 brothers there, right, that witnessed this together? They're karov, there are 2 edim that are relatives. What, you're gonna throw out the whole edut out? That doesn't work. You have one of them has to close his eyes in order for the testimony to be valid? Says Rebbe, no. That's the only time that we say that if one of them turns out to be karov or pasul, the whole edut is out, is when they tried to be edim. Right? It's okay, me and you are going to be edim. Hey, don't do it. They gave hatra'ah. The 2 brothers together, they gave hatra'ah. They became a group of edim. That's when we say it's a problem. But if they just happen to be bystanding witnesses, that's not considered karov or pasul. If one of them only grouped up and he was part of it, or if none of them was, for that matter, and the other ones did, and they just happened to be there witnessing what happened, but they're not part of the official witnesses that grouped up to witness, that's still fine. So says the Gemara, ve'matai bizman shehitru bahen, when they were the ones that gave the warning, when they wanted to be part of the edut. Aval bizman shlo hitru bahen, but when they didn't deliberately want and opted to be part of the witnessing group, well, if the 2 brothers were there when somebody killed somebody, that doesn't make it that now whoever wants to kill a person, find 2 brothers and make sure they're there, and then you kill, and you're off the hook. That doesn't make any sense, says Rebbe. So therefore, it's only, this halakha is only when you have a group of edim who opt together to come to Bedin and say, we are the witnesses. And then you look into it and you find that, oh, this guy is the first cousin once removed of this other guy. Right? So that's pasul edut. By the way, once we have this, Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says once you have the shofar, you could blow more. So I'm going to open a parenthesis over here. When you go to weddings, one of the halachot of edut, these are in Siman Lamed Gimel and Lamed Dalet in Shulchan Aruch, Choshen Mishpat. Every frum Jew, and certainly every Rav, has to know these two simanim inside and out, because by every wedding, this is a question. I can't tell you how many weddings I've been at that with two questions, you find out that they are relatives. Relatives does not have to be just brothers. It could be, if you are even cousins, even second cousins, or through marriage cousins. All of those are, simply put, again, without getting into the, sheni b'sheni and sheni b'shlishi and all those things, they would be invalid. So therefore, it's important to check who your edim are for, or who the edim are for any chuppah and any wedding. Okay. That being said, says the Gemara. Says the Gemara. This was the Mishnah. Amar Rava, ve'hu sheidu kulam betoch kedei dibur. The edim have to testify back to back, immediately after one another. Toch kedei dibur. The Gemara in Baba Kama explains why toch kedei dibur is the way it is, but it is the time that takes to say Shalom Alecha Rebbe, right? The Rambam says it's not the fastest way you could say Shalom Alecha Rebbe. Right? It's not Shalom Rebbe. It's not that. It's the way a Talmid would bow, says the Rambam, in front of his Rebbe, and he would say Shalom Alecha Rebbe. So it takes a while, a second and a half, 2 seconds, whatever it is. Well, it's a short amount of time. So Rava says they have to be giving their edut betoch kedei dibur, mamash, together, back to back. Amale Rav Acha midifti l'Ravina. Rav Acha midifti said to Ravina, Michli. Let's see. Toch kedei dibur hechidami. What is toch kedei dibur? Kedei she'elat talmid leRav. It's what we said when the way a student, a talmid, greets his Rebbe in the marketplace. So says the Gemara, Mea tuvavu. If you have 100 edim, how are you going to have all of them say toch kedei dibur? You can't. Even 3 or 4 is going to be difficult. So Amaleh, kol chad vechad betoch kedei dibur shel chavero. Says no, we're not talking about all 100. Each one of them has to be back to back with the next one. So one finishes, the other one starts, the other one finishes, the other one starts, and kacha hala. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Akiva Omer, lo b'shlishi v'chule. We just learned the Mishnah that Rabbi Akiva says the third one, the alpi shnayim edim or alpi shlosha edim, that third, the addition, is coming to be machmir, not mekel, right? That we saw in the Mishnah. So says the Gemara, Amale Rapapa Labaye, Elamata Harug Yatzil. We're out of time right now. We're not going to get to finish this whole thing. Okay, let's stop here, and Bezrat Hashem will continue. We'll pick this up tomorrow morning. Chazak u'baruch.